My name is Marcus Chen, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a software architect for a tech startup in San Francisco, designing systems that handle millions of transactions for e-commerce platforms. I've spent the last 5 years building something meaningful, turning lines of code into applications that actually matter to people's daily lives. My world was logical, structured, and predictable. Every problem had a solution if you just wrote the right algorithm. 3 days before what was supposed to be the most important day of my life, I discovered that some problems can't be solved with code. Rebecca Martinez was everything I thought I wanted in a partner. At 27, she had this infectious energy that lit up every room we entered. Whether we were grabbing coffee in the Mission District or attending tech conferences in Silicon Valley. She worked as a product manager for a social media startup, had a master's degree from Stanford, and possessed this incredible ability to make everyone feel like the most interesting person in the room. My parents loved her. My coworkers constantly told me how fortunate I was to have found someone so brilliant and ambitious. If you enjoy stories of devastating betrayals and ice-cold revenge, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new unreleased stories here every day, each one more shocking than the last. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 10 months. The wedding was planned for a Sunday afternoon at a vineyard in Napa Valley with 180 guests expected. I'd already paid the final $35,000 installment to the venue. The honeymoon in Tokyo was booked, flights confirmed, hotels reserved. Everything was perfect, or so I believed. That Thursday morning in late September, I was debugging a critical system failure when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but something made me answer anyway. The voice on the other end belonged to someone I'd never expected to hear from. "Marcus, this is Jessica Martinez, Rebecca's sister." I knew Jessica, of course. She was Rebecca's younger sister by 3 years, worked as a nurse at UCSF, and had always been friendly but reserved around me. She'd never called me directly before. "Hi, Jessica. Is everything okay? Is Rebecca all right?" There was a long pause, then a shaky breath. "That's actually why I'm calling. I need to tell you something about Rebecca, something you need to know before Sunday." My stomach dropped. In my line of work, you learn to recognize when systems are about to fail. There are always warning signs if you know how to read them. "What kind of something?" "Can we meet? This isn't a conversation for the phone." An hour later, I sat across from Jessica at a quiet cafe in the Sunset District. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, her usually perfect appearance replaced by red-rimmed eyes and nervous energy that reminded me of my own anxiety during system crashes. "Rebecca is going to leave you at the altar," she said without any build-up. "She's planning to humiliate you in front of everyone." The words hit me like a server failure at peak traffic, but I kept my expression neutral. Years of debugging critical systems had taught me to stay calm when everything was falling apart. "That's a serious accusation, Jessica. What makes you think that?" She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot of a group chat. The participants were Rebecca and 2 of her friends from college, people I'd met at dinner parties but didn't know well. "She's been planning this for weeks," Jessica said. "Look at the dates." I read the messages from the previous month. Rebecca had written, "I can't go through with marrying Marcus. He's sweet, but he's so boring. All he talks about is code and algorithms. I need someone with passion, with fire." One of her friends had responded, "So call off the engagement." Rebecca's reply made my blood run cold. "No, I have a better idea. I'm going to let him plan everything, let him pay for everything, and then I'll walk away at the altar. He deserves to be embarrassed for being such a predictable robot." I handed the phone back to Jessica, my mind racing through the implications. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you don't deserve what she's planning to do to you," Jessica said quietly. "And because I've watched you for 4 years. You're not boring, Marcus. You're brilliant and kind and dedicated. She just can't see it because she's too busy looking for some fantasy that doesn't exist." I studied Jessica's face, noting details I'd never paid attention to before. The way she avoided eye contact when she talked about Rebecca, the genuine concern in her voice when she said my name, the slight tremor in her hands as she showed me the messages. "There's more," she continued, scrolling through her phone. "She's been seeing someone else." More screenshots appeared. Rebecca had been messaging with a guy named Dylan, someone she'd met at a marketing conference in Los Angeles 3 months earlier. The conversations were intimate, filled with the kind of romantic language she'd stopped using with me months ago. And in one particularly damaging exchange from 2 weeks prior, Rebecca had written, "I can't wait to be done with this charade. Marcus is like dating a computer program. You make me feel alive again." Dylan had responded, "So why not just break up with him?" Her answer destroyed what was left of my faith in the woman I'd planned to marry. "Because I want him to suffer. He's wasted 4 years of my life with his boring stability. I want everyone to see him get rejected so they'll know what kind of man he really is." I sat in silence, processing the systematic cruelty of what Rebecca had planned. She hadn't just fallen out of love with me or found someone else. She'd designed an elaborate public humiliation, using our wedding as the stage for her performance. "How long have you known about this?" I asked Jessica. "About Dylan. 2 months. About her plan to leave you at the altar. She told me last week. She thought I'd find it funny." Jessica's voice was filled with disgust. "She said it would teach you not to be so complacent about relationships." I stared out the cafe window at the San Francisco fog rolling in from the ocean, thinking about the algorithms I used to solve complex problems. Every system could be optimized. Every process could be improved. But you had to understand the true nature of what you were working with first. "What do you want from me?" I asked Jessica. "Nothing," she said. "I just thought you deserved to know the truth before Sunday. You can call off the wedding, save yourself the humiliation, and move on with your life." After Jessica left, I sat alone in the cafe for 2 hours, thinking about what she'd told me. I could have confronted Rebecca immediately, canceled everything, and avoided the public spectacle she'd planned. But something stopped me. Maybe it was my analytical nature, always wanting to understand the full scope of a problem before implementing a solution. Maybe it was simple pride, or maybe it was the realization that if Rebecca could orchestrate such a calculated betrayal, she deserved a response that matched her level of manipulation. I decided to investigate further before making any moves. That evening, I went home to our shared apartment in Soma and acted like nothing had changed. Rebecca was on the couch, laptop open, supposedly working on a presentation for Monday's meeting. "How was your day?" she asked without looking up from her screen. "Productive. Just a major bug in the payment processing system." "That's nice," she said absently, still typing. Then she glanced at me with that smile I'd fallen in love with 4 years earlier. "Only 3 more days until we're married? Can you believe it?" "It's going to be unforgettable," I replied, and I meant every word. Over the next 3 days, I conducted my investigation with the same methodical approach I used for debugging critical systems. I reached out to Jessica and asked if she could get me more evidence of Rebecca's plan. She was hesitant at first, uncomfortable with spying on her sister, but when I explained that I needed to protect myself from what was coming, she agreed to help. Jessica provided me with additional screenshots from Rebecca's group chat, including detailed discussions about the timing of her planned exit. Rebecca had choreographed the entire scene. She would wait until the officiant asked if she took me to be her husband. Then she would pause dramatically, look around at all the guests, and say, "Actually, no, I can't marry someone I don't love." She'd even practiced her speech, according to messages Jessica captured. Rebecca planned to tell everyone that she'd realized I was too emotionally unavailable, too focused on work, too boring to spend her life with. She wanted to make sure everyone understood that the failure of our relationship was entirely my fault. But Jessica's investigation revealed something even more disturbing. Rebecca had been coordinating with Dylan to ensure he'd be in San Francisco that weekend. She'd booked him a room at a hotel near the venue, planning to leave with him immediately after her public rejection. She'd already packed a bag and hidden it in her car. "She's treating your wedding like some kind of performance art piece," Jessica explained during our second meeting, this time at a bar in the Castro. "She thinks it's going to be this empowering moment where she takes control of her narrative." The final piece of evidence came from Rebecca's own social media activity. Jessica showed me drafts Rebecca had prepared for Instagram and Facebook, posts she planned to publish immediately after leaving me at the altar. The captions were carefully crafted to portray her as a brave woman who'd escaped an unfulfilling relationship, with hashtags like #KnowYourWorth and #AuthenticLiving. I realized then that Rebecca hadn't just planned to humiliate me. She'd designed an entire media campaign around our wedding's destruction, turning my heartbreak into content for her personal brand. That night, I made my decision. I could have simply confronted Rebecca, exposed her plan, and called off the wedding privately. But Rebecca had spent months building anticipation for this moment, telling everyone how excited she was to marry me, accepting congratulations and gifts, all while planning to destroy me in front of everyone we knew. She deserved to face the same audience she'd been performing for. I spent the weekend creating a counter-presentation. Using my skills in system architecture and data visualization, I compiled all the evidence Jessica had gathered into a comprehensive timeline. Screenshots of the group chat messages, photos of Rebecca's hotel booking for Dylan, copies of her prepared social media posts, everything time-stamped and organized into a narrative that would be impossible to deny. The wedding was scheduled for Sunday afternoon at Chateau Margaux Vineyard in Napa Valley. Both families would be there, along with our college friends, co-workers, and everyone who'd supported our relationship over the past 4 years. 180 people total, all gathered to witness what they believed would be a celebration of love. I arranged with the venue's event coordinator to have a projector and screen set up, telling her I wanted to surprise Rebecca with a slideshow of our relationship highlights during the reception. The presentation was loaded onto my laptop, ready to be displayed at the moment I chose. On Sunday morning, Rebecca woke up in what she believed would be her last day as my fiancée. She spent hours getting ready, choosing every detail of her appearance for what she'd told Jessica would be her breakup performance. "I can't believe today is finally here," she said, adjusting her makeup in our bathroom mirror. "It's going to be a day no one forgets," I replied. She had no idea how right I was. The Chateau Margaux Vineyard was breathtaking that Sunday afternoon. Rolling hills covered in autumn vines stretched as far as the eye could see, and our families mingled on the terrace overlooking the valley. Rebecca moved through the crowd like she was starring in her own movie, accepting compliments on her dress, posing for photos with the bridesmaids, and playing the role of the radiant bride perfectly. My mother approached me near the bar, tears already forming in her eyes. "You look so handsome, Marcus," she said, straightening my tie. "I've never seen Rebecca more beautiful. You two are perfect together." "Today's going to be very memorable," I told her, meaning every word. At 3:30, the wedding coordinator asked everyone to take their seats for the ceremony. I'd arranged with her to have the projector and screen positioned where everyone could see it clearly, supposedly for the surprise slideshow during the reception. Jessica caught my eye from her seat in the third row and gave me a subtle nod. She looked nervous, but determined. Rebecca walked down the aisle at exactly 4 o'clock, her arm linked with her father's. She was genuinely stunning, and for a moment I felt a pang of sadness for what we could have been if she'd been honest with me. But then I remembered her messages about wanting to watch me suffer, and my resolve hardened. The officiant, Father Mitchell, smiled warmly as Rebecca joined me altar. He'd known both our families for years and was genuinely excited to be performing our ceremony. "Dearly beloved," he began, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Marcus and Rebecca in holy matrimony." I watched Rebecca during the opening remarks, noting how she kept glancing toward the back of the venue where I knew Dylan was supposed to be waiting. She'd told Jessica she wanted him to see her moment of triumph. Father Mitchell continued through the traditional ceremony, talking about love, commitment, and the sacred bond of marriage. Rebecca played her part perfectly, smiling at all the right moments, even reaching over to squeeze my hand when he talked about overcoming challenges together. "Now," Father Mitchell said, turning to me, "Marcus, do you take Rebecca to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part?" "I do," I said clearly. The crowd smiled. Rebecca beamed at me, probably thinking about how much more dramatic her rejection was going to be after I'd just committed myself publicly. Father Mitchell turned to Rebecca. "And Rebecca, do you take Marcus to be your lawfully wedded husband? To have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part?" This was her moment. I could see her drawing herself up, preparing for her performance. She looked out at the crowd, then back at me, and opened her mouth to deliver her rehearsed rejection. "Actually," I said, cutting her off before she could speak, "I need to say something first." Rebecca's eyes widened in confusion. Father Mitchell looked surprised but nodded for me to continue. "I want to thank everyone for being here today," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the vineyard. "Rebecca and I are incredibly grateful for your love and support as we start this new chapter of our lives." Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. Rebecca looked panicked, realizing I was disrupting her carefully planned script. "I've learned a lot about love over the past 4 years," I continued. "I've learned about trust, honesty, and the importance of really knowing the person you're planning to spend your life with." I paused, meeting Rebecca's eyes. Her smile had completely disappeared. "I've also learned that sometimes the people closest to us aren't quite who we think they are. Sometimes the person wearing the white dress has been living a completely different life than the one we thought we were sharing." The crowd grew quiet. A few people exchanged confused glances. Rebecca's face had gone pale. "So today, instead of just talking about love, I want to show you what I've discovered about honesty." I nodded toward the back of the venue where the event coordinator was waiting. "Could you please start the slideshow?" The large screen behind us flickered to life. The first slide showed Rebecca's group chat message. "I can't go through with marrying Marcus. He's sweet, but he's so boring. All he talks about is code and algorithms." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Rebecca grabbed my arm. "Marcus, stop this. What are you doing?" "Showing everyone the truth," I said calmly. The next slide displayed her message about planning to humiliate me at the altar. Then came the screenshots of her conversations with Dylan, her hotel booking for him, and her prepared social media posts celebrating her escape from our boring relationship. These messages were sent over the past 3 months, I explained to the stunned audience. Rebecca has been planning to leave me at the altar, not because she fell out of love, but because she wanted to humiliate me in front of all of you. She wanted everyone to see me get rejected so you'd know what kind of man she thought I was. Rebecca stood frozen as the evidence continued displaying. Her parents sat in the front row, her mother's hand pressed to her mouth in horror. My groomsmen stared at the screen in disbelief. The final slide showed Dylan's contact information and his hotel reservation for that weekend. She even arranged for her boyfriend to be here today to pick her up after her performance, I said. I closed the laptop and looked around at the 180 faces staring back at me in shock. Rebecca's carefully constructed image had crumbled completely in less than 5 minutes. "I want to thank everyone for coming today," I said. "And I want to especially thank Jessica Martinez for having the courage to tell me the truth about what her sister was planning." Jessica stood up slowly from her seat, tears streaming down her face. She'd been dreading this moment, knowing it would destroy her relationship with Rebecca, but she'd done it anyway to protect me. The wedding is obviously cancelled, I continued. But before everyone leaves, I have one more announcement to make. I walked down from the altar and stopped in front of Jessica's row. "Jessica," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "you showed me what real loyalty looks like. You risked your relationship with your own sister to save me from humiliation. You demonstrated the kind of integrity and character I thought I was marrying." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the engagement ring I'd removed from Rebecca's finger just moments before when she'd grabbed my arm. "I know this is unconventional," I said, getting down on one knee in front of Jessica. "But you're the Martinez sister I should have been with all along. You're brilliant, compassionate, and honest. Will you give me a chance to show you how a man should treat the woman he loves?" The crowd was dead silent. Jessica stared at me in shock, tears still flowing. "Marcus," she whispered, "are you serious?" "I've never been more serious about anything in my life," I said. "I've spent 4 years with the wrong sister. Don't make me waste any more time." Jessica looked around at all the faces watching us, then back at me. A smile slowly spread across her face. "Yes," she said quietly, then louder, "Yes, Marcus. I'll give you that chance." The crowd erupted. People were cheering, crying, laughing, and trying to process what they'd just witnessed. I slipped the ring onto Jessica's finger and kissed her, right there in front of everyone. "Behind us!" Rebecca finally found her voice. "Are you insane?" she screamed. "You can't just give my ring to my sister." "It was never your ring," I said, turning to face her. "It was meant for someone who actually wanted to marry me, not humiliate me. Someone who tells the truth instead of planning elaborate betrayals." Rebecca looked around desperately for support, but found none. Even her own parents were staring at her with disappointment and shame. Her carefully planned moment of triumph had become her own public downfall. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice breaking. "Jessica, you can't do this to me. He's my fiancé." "Was," Jessica corrected, standing up and taking my hand. "And you were planning to dump him anyway, remember? I'm just saving you the trouble." Rebecca stormed out of the vineyard, presumably to find Dylan at his hotel. Most of the guests stayed for what became an impromptu engagement party for Jessica and me. The catering was already paid for, the bar was open, and everyone was too stunned and entertained to leave. My mother approached us during the reception, still trying to process what had happened. "I'm so confused," she said. "But I have to say, you two look right together. I always thought Jessica was special." "She is," I said, squeezing Jessica's hand. "I was just too blind to see it." Over the next few months, Jessica and I took things slowly, building a relationship based on the honesty and trust that had been missing from my time with Rebecca. We discovered we had more in common than I'd ever realized. She was brilliant, funny, and shared my appreciation for solving complex problems, though hers involved saving lives instead of debugging code. Rebecca did eventually post on social media, but not the triumphant content she'd planned. Instead, she had to explain to everyone why her engagement had ended and her sister was now with her ex-fiancé. The story spread through our social circles like wildfire, and she became known as the woman who'd planned to humiliate her fiancé at the altar, only to be exposed and replaced by her own sister. She moved to Portland 6 months later, supposedly for a fresh start. Dylan apparently broke up with her shortly after the wedding disaster, deciding he didn't want to be with someone capable of such calculated cruelty. Jessica and I got married 18 months later, at a small ceremony in Golden Gate Park with just immediate family present. We didn't want anything elaborate or dramatic. We'd had enough excitement to last a lifetime. I'm still working as a software architect, though I've started my own company now. Jessica is pursuing her nurse practitioner degree while working part-time at UCSF. We bought a house in the Sunset District, not far from the cafe where she first told me the truth about her sister. Sometimes people ask if I feel guilty about how everything happened, if I should have handled it differently, but I don't regret exposing Rebecca's plan. She'd designed an elaborate scheme to humiliate me in front of everyone I cared about. She got exactly what she was planning to give me: public embarrassment and the loss of everything she thought she wanted. The $35,000 I spent on that wedding was the best investment I ever made. It bought me my freedom from a manipulative relationship and led me to the woman I was actually meant to be with. Jessica and I often joke that Rebecca did us a favor by showing her true colors before I made the biggest mistake of my life. Sometimes the best debugging happens when the whole system crashes and you have to rebuild from scratch. Sometimes you have to let everything fall apart to discover what was really worth saving. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and leave a comment letting me know what you thought. Have you ever had someone try to humiliate you publicly, only to have it backfire on them? I'd love to hear about it. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive alerts about new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.